Welcome to There is a Method to the Madness. My name is Rob Maxwell. I'm an exercise physiologist and personal trainer. I'm the owner of Maxwell's Fitness Programs, and I've been in business since 1994. The purpose of this podcast is to talk about health and fitness, what works, and most importantly, why. I have a special episode today. I'm going to be interviewing Michelle Capereau, who is a former IFBB professional bikini model, and she wants to talk about some of her struggles and her journey, and she's going to talk about breast implantation and what she feels like the risks are with that. So it's going to be very interesting. I think it's a topic I don't know a lot about, so I'm going to let her talk about that. Before I get to that, let me thank Jonathan and Lynn Gilden of the Gilden Group at Realty Pros. Look, they're simply the best. They have the best customer service reviews in the area. They sell the most houses. They are out there to help you, and I personally vouch for them. They can be reached at 386-451-2412. All right, without further ado, I'm here to welcome Michelle into the studio to talk. How are you this morning, Michelle?
I'm great. How are you? It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on today.
Oh, I'm looking forward to the conversation for sure. So I know that when I met you, when I came across you were selling fitness equipment. That's how we got to know each other. And then we talked a little bit, and I found out that you were a former, basically bikini model, right? Professional.
Correct.
So I guess we can start there. Tell us a little bit about that journey, because I know from experience it is not easy.
No, it's definitely not easy, but it was something that, I entertained, since I was a teenager, as far as, being involved in, training, fitness training, fitness conscious. So when I got into competing, I'll just kind of, go from there. I was in my mid-30s.
Okay.
It just happened to be a good time in my life. I'd owned a business for 5 years that, ultimately I had to close. And I wanted to do something, with my time, to kind of keep me out of the doldrums from everything. Right. So my trainer at that time asked me if I'd ever thought about competing, and I said, well, if any time is a good time, now would be the time, because I have, the time and the motivation to do so. So, I competed, pretty much back to back for, a couple months. I did 2 national shows. My second national show is when I, won the overall and got my pro card.
What organization was that at the time?
NPC.
Okay.
I've only done NPC and IFBB. So NPC is the preliminary to the IFBB. IFBB is the pro league.
Okay. So is NPC all amateur?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And you were in your 30s when you started?
Yes, I was in my 30s when I entertained the competitive side of fitness.
But you were working out prior to that?
Yes, pretty regularly, since I, was in high school. And, my first husband, talking about how many husbands I have, my first husband was a bodybuilder.
Okay.
And he did some competitions. And, and prior to even that, I had, some friends that were also involved that I would train with. So it was always a topic of interest for me.
So it was basically worked out. It was just your trainer at the time saw obviously potential in you, or they wouldn't have recommended to do a competition.
Correct.
Because it's not something you want to go out there and fall on your face if you're not ready. It's pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
So what's so in the IFBB, so how many times did you compete in that?
In the pro, I did 3 competitions, in the pro league. So I did my my pro debut shortly after, I think it was like a month after, I got my status. And then I had my breast implant revision done, so I took some time off. And then I did 2 other shows after that, 2 other preps, and ultimately just kind of came to terms with where I was at in life in general. It was something that took precedence. My work-life balance, so to speak, wasn't great. So, and then, looking back, I realized that, my fatigue level was higher. I didn't have the energy that I had when I initially went into it. So I took a different direction.
Took some time off.
Yeah.
So are you happy with where, you are so far at the time with the physique competition, or is there something in you that says you want to do a little bit more?
Well, I always have that, that little birdie that says, oh, you can do it, or why not do it again? It was something that, really worked on my discipline.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about myself, a lot about, fitness in general, diet, nutrition, training, and, there's a plethora of information out there. So, it's always something that I have, kind of, in my toolbox.
Right.
But, in the last, I guess, probably 8-10 years, it's never been something that I have scheduled,
right,
or really made a priority. No.
So you brought up a few moments ago you had some augmentation done, corrective, I think you said. So that's a good lead in to the main reason you're here that you wanted to talk about. So former IFBB pro, physique competitions, bikini specialty. For those that don't know, there's a lot of different categories, especially for the women. So talk to us a little bit about the what you've experienced with potentially, how do you want to word it, some problems from maybe the breast augmentation.
Okay, yeah. Well, first and foremost, why did I get breast implants? And my current breast implants is actually my 3rd set. So over the course of 20 years, I've had breast implants, and this revision was done after I did, pretty intense like muscle training, right. In fitness. And so,
because we always have to be careful with that. Like for those that don't know, women that have had augmentation really need to watch chest exercises, bench press, chest press flies, things like that, because it can cause a rupture.
Right. I didn't have a problem with rupture, but they became deformed.
Okay. From training?
Yes, from training, absolutely. The first procedure was done axillary, which is through the armpit. Okay. So kind of, I believe, and from what I'm, being told, the way that they were set in my body, probably initially was a great idea, but then after I got into training and, was, training, the pectoral muscles, the back muscles, the lat muscles, et it pulled the implants apart. So I had a pretty wide cleavage area, and it looked hard. It didn't look natural. It didn't look feminine. So I researched getting them redone and moving into silicone versus the saline that I had, because
it was more less pliable, I guess.
It was softer appearance. Okay. Yes, and the doctor that I that performed the procedure, Dr. Autoplastic out of Chicago, is a great doctor. He did a wonderful job. I'm by no means unhappy with the way that they look. Right. I'll get a little bit more into that later, but yeah, he did the revision and even did a fat transfer to the cleavage to soften that area, because I was just so lean. Right. And you are lean. Yeah. Still lean. Yeah.
So you started to say, what was your main reason for doing that to begin with?
So my main reason to begin with for, in my early 20s, was everything to do with aesthetics. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I was, into training and fitness and, the way that my body looked. I'm very vain. And that helped to provide the symmetry and the balance, to my overall appearance.
Right.
And moving forward, after, I went into the competitions and the current set that I had at that time became deformed, that's when I started looking into having them redone and went in the direction of the silicone and, the fat transfer to the cleavage.
Do the majority of women in physique competitions, do they have augmentation, the majority of them, would you say, in bikini?
I would say, yes, it's definitely, a benefit because the body gets so lean, you tend to lose natural breast tissue.
Right.
A lot of our breast tissue is formulated with fat.
Right.
And, really the bodybuilding is everything about, symmetry and balance. So.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you got them and now maybe do you regret it, or is it like what were some of the things you were experiencing now that's maybe questioning whether you want to keep them?
Well, I wouldn't say that I regret it.
Okay.
Because I have it for the most part enjoyed them. I just think that right now with some of the other things that are going on in my life, I think that they're potentially not helping me.
Right.
They may be a contributor to some of the health struggles that I'm currently having. I got sick right after I had them done. Looking back, I was already very lean.
Right.
I got them done a month after I obtained my pro card, so you can just kind of have an idea of how small I was.
Yeah, because for people that don't know, when you come off of a competition for a month, you're kind of unhealthy lean.
Yeah.
Super lean.
Yeah. And I'm going to get into a little bit more of that later also about, where I'm at, with my health and understanding, some of, the possible reasons why I'm facing some of the things that I am. And I think that might contribute to it as well.
Okay.
But yeah, so I got pretty sick after I had them redone.
When you say sick, what were your symptoms?
I was very nauseous. I couldn't really eat much, and I lost like 15 to 20 pounds. My best friend told me, she's like, oh my God, Michelle, what is going on with you? You look really sick.
So like you're 5'10"?
I'm 5'9".
5'9", and so when you were competing, you came off that show, what was your body weight?
I competed at 138.
So you're 5'9", 138, and then you lost how much?
Like 15, 20 pounds.
Yeah,
so I was under 125 pounds, which even, without the muscle that I put on through training, I've always carried a healthy 130 to 140 pounds. That's like my ideal. If I get anything below 130, I don't look healthy. Right.
What are you now?
I'm actually 136.
Okay. So you kind of stay there.
Well, I wouldn't say that I stay there. I do fluctuate, and it has, a lot to do with my health concerns right now as well. I mean, just in this last month, I've fluctuated like 15 pounds.
Wow.
I think the last time, we met and we did my measurements, I was 142 pounds.
Mm-hmm. You were.
I went through a flare because I don't think we've even talked about it yet, that I have lupus.
Okay.
I was diagnosed with lupus, and I went through a flare and put on 10 pounds. And then, was treated for that with intravenous medication, and, all of that inflammation and weight came off, and I'm even lighter now than I was the last time I saw you.
Yes.
So, it's...
For those that don't know, what is lupus?
Lupus is an autoimmune disease, and I don't quite understand it that well myself, to be honest. It can be very confusing. Everyone who has been diagnosed with lupus, they're different.
Okay.
They have different symptoms. They have different challenges. I was diagnosed about a year and a half ago, and I still don't necessarily accept that I have it, which is part of the reason why I'm taking the proactive approach to have my breast implants removed, hoping that will clear up some of the things that I'm going through and potentially could be a cause, if not just a contributor to my struggles.
What are those main symptoms that you experience?
The main symptoms that I experience is, the brain fog, chronic fatigue. I mean, every day is a struggle for me. My method to my madness to getting through it is to make sure I get up every morning and get ready for my day, and no matter how I feel.
Right.
Because I can get to a point where, like, if I allow myself to settle in my fatigue, it has to be more about my mindset.
Suit up and show up.
Yeah. Raynaud's, which is something that, was onset a year after I had my breast implants.
Yeah.
Which really has been something that has stuck out all these years. It's like, where did this come from?
Right.
And if anybody doesn't know what Raynaud's is, it's actually, it's not that uncommon, but, temperature, cold, stress levels, stimulants, anything like that causes my vessels to constrict. And my hands go blue, then white, and then numb, to the point where, I'm in the grocery store, and if I'm there, too long, by the time I get to the checkout, I can't pull out my money or anything out of my billfold because I literally can't feel my fingers.
And that came on after the breast implants?
Yes.
Huh.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. And then I think you said you suffer some inflammation?
Yes. In my hands, I have swelling like around my knuckles, and usually when I'm experiencing, a flare, which I'm still, familiarizing myself with, as far as, what is, is it just life happening? Am I just maybe a little stressed out today? Or maybe, the flower didn't bloom today like it did the other day.
Right.
But I noticed some things in my hands, and some things like, in my arms. And obviously, the weight fluctuation could be a few pounds, or as much as 10 pounds.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And there's not any real difference in what's going on in my life, really.
Right.
My diet's pretty consistent.
You're clean. You eat clean.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing like prior to? So, have you decided you're going to have them removed?
Yes, I have made that decision.
Okay. That sounds scary.
It is scary. I've been preparing myself for it mentally because, I've had breast implants for 20 years, so I see myself a certain way every day. But I am in my mid-40s, and my lifestyle has changed. When it comes to, the symmetry of my body, I'm not as concerned about that as I was in the past. Being, my vanity has started to relax, and, competitions in fitness and all of that, is not on the forefront. And so I feel that I've become more humble, with the way that I look. The scariest part about the procedure is it's pretty invasive. Yeah. There's 3 different ways that it can be done. An en bloc is where, they take the entire capsule. The capsule is the scar tissue that your body develops around the implant to protect your body from the foreign object. And so doing it that way is, supposed to ensure that all of the toxins are removed from the body as best as possible, without the risk of them leaking into the body and causing, more issues. And then there's, where you just take the implants out and you leave the capsule.
The scar tissue. Got it.
Yes. And then, and I've really been leaning towards the en bloc because that just gives me the reassurance that, I have done my best to take care of the issue. And, as symptoms or problems may arise in the future, then, I don't have that questioning, oh my gosh, well, should I have done the en bloc? Right. And, did I not cover all of my bases here? Right. But I was speaking to, not only the research, but I was speaking to my doctor that performed the surgery initially. And, he explained that, that's not always necessary. There's the breast implant illness where there's, the symptoms, but then there's also something that has popped up called associated anaplastic large cell lymphoma, ALCL.
Okay.
And, that is not something that, that I'm facing. So that being said, the en bloc may not be necessary because the en bloc is pretty high risk.
So how would they know, though? Because you don't have those symptoms? Is that...
Correct. I don't have those symptoms, and the large cell lymphoma is actually it's a type of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, so it's cancer of the immune system.
Right.
So, as far as the testing, there's no testing to diagnose or confirm breast implant illness. The only way you know that you're going to be better is to actually eliminate them.
Trial and error.
Right. For me, my ANA levels, my anti-nuclear antibody levels are elevated, and that's what brought on the diagnosis of lupus.
That was a couple of years ago, you said?
Of a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you're just thinking this. Like, you've done your tests. Like, you've done a lot of medical tests to determine, the lupus I get, but even like some of the the potential risks from the breast augmentation. There have been some markers that have said this could be what's causing the problems. Right.
Well, and that's important to to explain also is the markers and the idea that I'm not naive to think that I'm going to have this explant procedure done and all of my problems are going to disappear.
Right.
The women out there that have confirmed from the elimination of the implants and have gotten, extraordinarily better to 100% better, it still took a little time.
How
after. Long? It could take anywhere from 6 months to a year. They detox.
It's like the body needs to heal. Yeah.
Right. But also, I understand that I have led a pretty extreme lifestyle. I've understood that, I haven't managed my stress well throughout my life. I'm currently in recovery and working on a lot of those things and understanding that, autoimmune, which they don't really understand where that, how that comes about, but stress is considered.
Of course. So when you say in recovery, do you mean like from alcohol or drugs or?
Yeah, alcoholism. I've been in recovery for alcoholism for a little over 2 years. I'm 9 months consistent.
Mm-hmm.
So, that has been, a life-changing journey for me, and it definitely plays a big role in a lot of what I'm experiencing with this. I found out that I had lupus was probably about 3 to 6 months after, I started my journey in recovery. So I'm grateful for that. It's like God has his way of lining these things up so that, you can either better be prepared or, hopefully have the clarity to be able to handle it.
Right, because how might you have responded if you weren't?
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just know that, the path that I'm on, I have the ability to handle things with more faith.
And probably being sober now, led to some of this clarity as well. Maybe it just wasn't an issue, right? During drinking days, party days, you're not going to know. Maybe you were experiencing some of these things, right?
Exactly. And I'm glad you went into that because I'm looking back and I'm trying to figure out, okay, where is this coming from? Lupus, what? My family, I come from a genetic line that is pretty incredible. My father's 70 years old. He's the guy that, throws back a brew and, smokes psychedelic cigarettes. You know what I mean? But he's incredibly healthy. My mom has bounced back from, a lot of complications from, her alcoholism.
Okay.
I don't have a history of cancer, heart disease, or anything like that in my family. So I would say that if my alcoholism was still active, I would be in denial. I would be so proud to say, oh, that's, that can't be the case. I don't have lupus. In fact, when I was diagnosed with lupus, I was in denial.
Right.
Because I'm really not experiencing some of the extremes that that I'm reading that others out there are experiencing. And for that, I'm incredibly grateful. So
extremes of lupus, you mean?
Correct.
Right.
Correct. So then I go into the idea that it's possibly the breast implants. I have a latex allergy. So I'm like, okay, well, silicone, latex, how to, what kind of, are they in the same family?
Right.
I don't know. I got pretty sick right after I had them put in. I had the onset of Raynaud's a year after, at the same time, there were things going on in my life, that could have contributed to those illnesses. So if I was still active alcoholism, I wouldn't be able to really narrow it down to what may be causing, the struggles that I'm currently having. But when I know that I'm doing the right thing, and I know that, I'm not putting anything toxic into my body, then it gives me the ability to be able to at least understand, how to approach it.
So when do you plan on doing this? Because we're definitely going to have a follow-up,
Yes.
afterwards,
Yes.
When do you think you're going to do this? Is this something you've scheduled or need to schedule? Where are we at in that?
Well, I will say that, I was pretty adamant about having this done and almost impatient, because I just want to feel better. And I just want to know that, I'm not wasting any time to take action.
Right.
That being said, I did have it scheduled for tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
And have decided to postpone it. Some things, have popped up that, I think maybe I need to, be a little bit more informed, or I need to do, have a little more consideration as far as what my particular situation is.
Right.
And so I'm looking into, the different procedures, my situation with my, my implant doctor, or my cosmetic surgeon that did the implants, so that I kind of know, what his take is on as far as the safest way.
Could you trust them?
I do. I absolutely do trust him. And, if anybody is going to know, how to take them out, it'd be the one that put them in.
Right. I mean, it makes sense that you're doing your research, your homework.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do, in between? You'd mentioned to me about your diet, and talk a little bit about that. That sounds pretty extreme right now, trying to eliminate stuff.
Right. The Autoimmune Protocol diet is something that I've been doing, and I initially started that. I've known about it for a while. I just haven't taken action. I originally started it in preparation for the surgery and the detoxing after the surgery. The Autoimmune Protocol diet eliminates foods that are potential causes of inflammation in the body.
Dairy, obviously.
Right. Dairy, nuts, seeds, what they call nightshades. And it's interesting because I call it the paleo diet on steroids. Right. Because the paleo diet is nothing processed.
Right. Everything out of the ground or killed. Yeah.
Food from the earth.
Yes.
Yes. And
that's not easy to do nowadays.
No.
In 2024, that's
it's not, it's not that convenient.
No.
But it can be done. I'm grateful that I have the experience and being disciplined with my diet, and I think that will be helpful. But there are things on that diet that I'm not able to eat.
Because you don't like, or just because you react in other ways?
Well, it's telling me to eliminate them, like almonds, walnuts, so
I got you.
Seeds.
So that's why you say on steroids.
Yeah, tomatoes.
Yes.
Potatoes.
Yeah, no potatoes, huh?
No, well, sweet potatoes.
Sweet potatoes.
Right.
What are there other grain sources that you can eat, or carbohydrate sources that you can eat?
Well, fruits and vegetables, because it's no quinoa. It's pretty.
So you can have sweet potatoes. Bananas?
Yeah, fruits and vegetables.
Apples?
Yes.
So what kind of fruits would you have to eliminate? Just
I don't believe there really are. If there are any fruits on the list, there are not any that I have in my regular diet. I should have brought that list with me.
No, I'm just curious, because that's going to be pretty that's hard.
Yeah. And I'm already my weight is already
You're going to have to eat a ton. You're going to have to eat a ton of sweet potatoes. You have to eat 10 sweet potatoes a day.
I'm going to have to eat a lot of something in order to not wither away.
Like, what's going to be your protein source? Chicken, fish?
Chicken, yes, fish. I do plant protein.
Right, yes, you said that.
Shakes every morning, and that was something, that I started doing consistently because I was having a hard time keeping weight on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Broccoli, so vegetable proteins, etc.
Yum,
but yeah.
It's not like you can go to Starbucks and get a nice bagel, cream cheese, and a frappuccino, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to be. I probably will be the most boring date because that's for sure.
Gonna have to go get some sweet potatoes and mahi.
Yeah,
it's actually not that bad.
Right.
Well, we got a few minutes left here in interview number one. What do you want to tell people? Like, you told them a lot already, but like, what do you feel like you need to get across in this? I will say for you, I think you did a really good job of, you're not making any accusations. I like that. You're just saying, you don't know for sure, but there's a possibility that the breast augmentation implants could be causing some of this. And for you want to see. I think that's a pretty good way to approach it. In other words, you're not going to get the people coming at you going, it didn't happen to me. It's like, you're not saying it did.
Correct. Well, and that's definitely important to know. And I'm hyper responsible sometimes. Yeah, I think taking responsibility is huge for growth.
Right.
So I would say,
It's part of the AA program, right?
Yes, yes. So I'm kind of tripping on my words here, but to answer your question, I would say that, if you're considering, putting anything into your body that, is foreign, and so, we're speaking of breast implants. So if you're considering breast implants, for your personal reasons, whatever those might be, take responsibility and do your research. And know enough about your body and your family history to know what those risks and complications could be. And, be self-aware about what's going on with your body if you decide to get them done and what is going on, and so that you can address that. Be prepared financially, to have them taken right back out.
Because isn't that more expensive than putting them in?
When I had them done, it was pretty expensive because I had a revision.
Right.
But yes, it's pretty expensive.
10,000, right?
Well, I was quoted 13,000.
Yeah, that's what
just to have them explanted.
Because I have had a client had this procedure done a couple years ago. They had them. I think it was somewhere in that ballpark of 10 to 15,000. So that's not cheap. Yeah. And obviously, it's not insurance paid.
No. No, insurance will not cover it. It's not a recognized disease or illness. Mm-hmm. There's no way to test for it.
Right.
So there's no real diagnosis. It really is just, I say it like this, if I have a wool sweater that looks great on me, but it breaks out my skin every time I wear it, and I decide, okay, well, I'm just going to take this, antihistamine before I wear the sweater, so that I don't break out as bad. But I'm still going to have, my body is still going to be put under some sort of toxins because I'm taking, something to...
Yeah, it's a reaction.
It's a reaction, you know? So I look at it as, okay, I maybe it's something that I feel looks good on me, but if it's going to be something that is going to get in the way of my overall health and wellness, then it's something that I don't really need.
And then ultimately, then it won't look good on you, right?
Right.
Because your health is going to go down the toilet, and so
I'm not going to have the energy or the stamina to be able to really be enjoying the moment.
Right. And you said about specifically breast augmentation, but people are doing other implants nowadays. They're doing butt implants.
Oh, exactly. Exactly.
I've seen it. I literally was like, there's no way that's a normal butt.
Right.
I've seen it in my own life with people. I'm like, so it's not just breasts now, right? People are doing other things.
It's not just breasts, and we're talking specifically about, implants like that are silicone based or are for vanity. Right. But there's other things that we have as implants. Everything from tooth repair to knee replacements, replacements, shoulder replacements, etc.
Right.
That very well could considerably have some of the same risks if the body reacts to them.
But I guess the difference is one there for vanity versus the need, the
Right.
person, right, has to feel better. So,
Right.
yeah, I think that was a very good, the wool sweater is a great example, a great analogy on that as well.
Do I
It's
need it?
Right. Do I really, really need it? Do you have anything else you wanted to share?
I think we pretty much covered everything. There's of course a lot to be discussed always, but I think that we covered all the important factors. And,
Okay.
and I'm sure there's going to be a lot that's going to come up, for our part 2 after I have them explained.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind
and
of
you'll be
talk about
available. Like if anybody contacts me, are you open to them calling you? Like if they have their own concerns, they'd like to get some more,
Absolutely. I think that that's important. And that's why, we're here today is, because, sharing your story and your experience, helps someone else to be able to put it into perspective possibly for what they're experiencing. And, with something like this where everybody is, has different symptoms or different lifestyles or et cetera, you really kind of get, become more comfortable with understanding, what is going on when you can talk to someone else about it. So I'm definitely open to anybody, who wants to share their experience with me, because that would help me as well.
Right. And I don't know really anything about the subject, which is why it was great to have you on. I will say though, like, the last thing is, you brought your puppy.
Yes.
So if anybody heard a little doggy barking, that's because, what's your dog's name?
Chico. If anybody knows me, they know that Chico goes everywhere.
Chico goes everywhere. And Chico's a cute, cute little pup. Just not even a pup anymore, sitting in your lap, being good. He just wanted mommy's attention there. So that's probably a better way to deal with stress than some of the old former ways, right?
That's right. I have definitely, I've got much better tools in my toolbox today than I did in the past.
Puppies and animals and, working out and being healthy and all that good stuff probably is better, So that was great. So let's see. When you contact me, we'll know exactly, well, you're going to be in contact, but when that's all scheduled, what I'll do is I'll let all the viewers know and when you're going to be back on again, and we can kind of do a post wrap-up.
For sure. That sounds great. I look forward.
I hope everybody enjoyed that interview. I know I certainly did. Michelle is an outstanding individual who really, really works hard to better herself and really tries to help people. Like, that's the one thing I really so respect in her is the fact that she really does everything with the best of intentions to really try to help her fellow citizens and animals, which I think is awesome. Speaking of animals, have you met Zach Hawk, the owner of Overhead Door Company? That guy is in here and he is a beast, but more important than that, he and his dad Jeff have the absolute best garage door company in the state of Florida, and we're fortunate enough to have them here in Daytona Beach. If you need any help, please give them a shout at overheaddordaytona.com. And by the way, please download all of these podcasts and share them on your social media. It is so appreciated if you do that, because then it really, really spreads. All right. See you next time.